Okay, guys, are you a neurotic audiophile? Of course you are. That goes with the territory. We even buy even fuses to if we think we can improve the performance of our gear. And some of it gets into exotic physics and make believe, but there's one piece of or area of tweaks, accessories that I think is the most overlooked because I've recently not only seen tangible proof of that being an area overlooked, but also it's an area where it's measurable, the difference. And I think a lot of people overlook it, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. It's a late at night on a Friday night, a fun night, but I've been going since 7 a.m. this morning, nonstop on phones for stuff for the channel and Airbnb. The show's coming up. Lots of cool news for you. Lots. In my membership section, I'm giving them little bits and pieces, but I can't even share everything just yet. It's just amazing what's going on. I've been on the phone literally all day. But one bad thing happened today. I didn't get delivered the Potpourri WR2s. The demo model was supposed to come here today. As usual with shipping issues. Oh, the truck broke down. We'll send it on Monday. Something needs to be done with shipping because I just had actually, and we were talking about this in my membership section, all the issues people constantly have with shipping damage, not just being late, but damage. It's just getting out of hand. I just had my first piece for a customer, a Bach that came with some damage. Now, luckily, it was not very minor, and it was able to be fixed at the person's location. But it's just ridiculous what goes on with our packages nowadays. And I think even the government needs to start looking at this area because these shipping companies are getting out of hand. And of course, the insurance never pays or very rarely pays. So that's an issue for another day. But catching you up with the reason I'm leapfrogging a lot of this content I'm behind on is that organically in my membership group, one of my members ordered some, I'm pointing back here, but they're not back here, Viablue speaker cables. Very nice cables. They're referenced. They're SC6 $2,000 cables. These are very well-made cables. But he hooked them up and it didn't work. They weren't working in one channel. Now, I knew there was nothing wrong with the cables, and he knew too because he could tell from the construction. They were just impeccably made. And really, that's something that I spent a lot of time vetting when being a customer of these. That's the thing I look at the most. Well, not the most. I look at the people behind the brand. I obviously look at performance and value. Those are all things that have to be, it's non-starter if those aren't there, but also a non-starter if they aren't reliable. And if a cable like this can't be stepped on, especially a power cable, because inevitably you're going to make a mistake, or somebody in your family or a pet or something going to step on it, damage, whatever reason. You do not want these frail cables, okay? Not just for shipping damage, probably isn't a big deal with cables, but inevitably things happen, and you do not want to take chances when it comes to especially power cables, and just with all your cables not being defective. And it's going to tie into the thing today, but that's what I love about Blue Jeans and Viablue. I can literally stand on this. I'm like 190 pounds, 6'2". It does nothing to the connector. And if you sell cables that you can't step on, if they're too fragile, very weak jacketing or very soft conductors or ribbon, whatever it is, it's a non-starter for me, especially if we're talking about power cables. So it ties into what came up in my membership video is when this guy ordered the Viablue cables, one of them didn't work, and we knew it wasn't the cable, but we turned it 24 hours later, we found the issue. And it goes back to what I've been saying all along with cables. Most of the cable is OEM from the same companies, and really Blue Jeans Cable has a relationship with, or the former head of Belden is at Blue Jeans Cable, and a lot of companies use Belden. A lot of people use Blue Jeans Cable, repackage it, and then mark it up 10 times and then sell you a blue jeans cable in sheep's clothing. You know, why not just get it cheaper right off the bat? But with Viablue, they do everything in-house, and that's what really impressed me, plus the aesthetic element. So at 2 different budget points, I've got things covered with blue jeans and Viablue. So getting back to the point of the story is that connector quality is always something I've looked at, and under the hood, what it goes on in the sonic welds with these and the Viablue connection methods, this is something I look at, because what happened was it wasn't the Viablue cable that was defective. What we found is that the terminals on his amp had, by another German manufacturer, although I think it is some debate whether some of their models get made in China, but it's still sold under their German company name. But in any case, he had a binding post, and when the spade came over it, the binding post had a ring, a metal ring, and then the copper in the middle. Well, the copper sunk down over time, or just defective. And so when the blades of the spades went on, it was sunk down so much that the blades weren't making contact anymore. It was not flush anymore. It was just a design that was very susceptible to, over time, not being a high quality connection. And this was a macro case of extreme, where it was so bad it wasn't working. But connection quality is so important. Under the hood, how they do it, and trust me, I've seen under the hood of some of these other cable companies. It's unbelievable how poor their welding. Well, they don't do any sonic welding. They do solder or screws, even worse. There's some very poor hookup methods under the hood. But just connecting your gear, especially if it's half hanging out, you're basically creating quasi fuses at all these connection points if it's not secure, if it's not getting mass surface area connection. And one of the things, the reason I'm leapfrogging this video to show you, it's not content I filmed. This is content from my customer, Bob, who you've seen on my channel, him showing you what exactly happened on his piece, his amplifier, and this terminal that he had. He'll show you exactly what happened, document it for you to make your own decision. Again, it's just one isolated thing in terms of, it's not indicative of that company's all their things. Things can happen over time, but it does, I follow it up with a video that Anka at Viablue did to showcase their terminals, their speaker terminals that go on gear and also on speakers, because I want to show you the difference. It just because it's German made doesn't mean everything sometimes is made in Germany with some of these companies. And some of the times, just because it says German made, it doesn't guarantee its superior construction quality and reliability. And one of the things metrics that I look at for companies I represent is reliability. And that's what I was so impressed with Viablue. And in fact, they're so nice, and even though it wasn't a defect in their part with their speaker cables, they're sending Bob some replacement terminals to put on his amp. So I'll have a follow-up video in the future where he is going to show you how to replace the terminals on his amps. If you have some do-it-yourself acumen, he'll show you in a video, and I'll put that on my channel in case you ever want to upgrade your terminals on that or your speakers. And then on top of that, I'm going to have a Zoom with Jeff at Blue Jeans Cable, who also is a big believer in the quality of connections. That's why I represent them as well. And he's going to tell you about 2 things. Number one, a tip. I'm going to give you the same tip he gave me and that he does. Once a month, he reseats all of his connectors. Okay, this is the guy that makes cable. He knows that just humidity over time, vibrations or whatever, reseating connections can ensure a better reseating contact area that could over time cause problems. You've seen it with your charging cable on your phone. You've probably inevitably had a USB cable that had slow charging versus fast charging. And it's probably because the wires and the connection quality inside has worn out over time. Well, that can be extrapolated to the most critical connection is when this goes into the male goes into the female, and making sure that's still good tension and good contact. And for those that say, oh, it's nothing to worry about, you're being neurotic. Well, guess what? Jeff even measured how the difference in the quality of that connection can be measured in terms of how the deleterious effects having a not a strong connection there. And if we're going to be neurotic about anything, this is something to be more neurotic about than maybe even a fuse or a lot of other things. It doesn't mean that this is going to be the highest priority of things, but it's so easy to reseat your connectors and buy right the first time. Buy something that's going to last. Buy something that you're not going to have to worry about, and buy from people that can that's staying behind their gear. So hopefully you enjoy this video, but plenty more to come on this topic, because I think it's an overlooked area that hopefully you guys don't overlook in the future.
Okay, check this out. So I did some more testing. Now I'm running they're two separate amplifiers, and these are new. But if you see in the picture, you see how that piece of copper is sticking out a little bit, and then you see how that one's recessed. It's not the terminal is not attaching to it. So I switched cords. It worked fine on the other side, and it looks like it's a problem in the connection. So that sticks out. So when the two prongs hits that, and that clamps down good, and you can put bananas in there, but that right there is enough to break the contract. So what I'm going to do is end up adding some gold washers to that, and I'll be fine.
Hey there, here are the features of the Viablue T8 binding posts. When we developed our binding posts, it was very important to us to have a resistance as low as possible. So the key for us was to create a perfect connection from your high-end speaker cable to the inside of your speakers. Here you can see one consistent part. This means it has the same thickness from the contact of your termination, for example a banana plug or spade, to the soldering tub where the cable is soldered on inside the speaker. Now take a look inside. Here we have a non-smooth surface with an improved grip. That way spades stay firmly in place and do not turn. When you loosen the screw and open the binding post as much as possible, the screwable shell is still firmly attached. This means you won't lose it. With the Viablue T8 binding posts, you have several connecting options. This is the LS2 silver double isolated twin speaker cable that you can connect directly to the Viablue T8 binding posts. The second option would be to use spades. Another alternative is using a banana connector. With our Viablue T8 binding posts, you can also use spades and banana connectors at the same time. All of our connectors of the T8 series have 24K real gold-plated contacts. The outer shell is made of black satin matte aluminum. But there's even more. If you have a round hole in the wall of your speaker and a round binding post, your binding post will possibly be able to move and rotate. In order to prevent that, we developed a unique solution, the Viablue Rotation Protector. Let me show you how it works. You put the Viablue binding post through the wall of your speaker and attach the rotation protector to it. And even though it's not firmly fixed yet, you can see that the binding post can no longer rotate. Now it's finally fixed with washer discs and nuts. So these were the features of our Viablue T8 binding posts. We put a lot of technical expertise and experience in their development, and we hope you can experience them too.